You know those moments when leadership it just happens. Not really because someone has a title, but because someone steps up.
Yeah, totally.
The book we're exploring today, it kicks off with this really vivid story, the Loma Prieta earthquake in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading that part.
Traditional structures just crumbled, literally, and leadership just emerged from, well, the most unexpected places.
Right.
It makes you think about those times in your own life, doesn't it? When someone, like, without any official authority, just took charge and, made a difference.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, sort of building on that earthquake image, is how much it challenges our usual ideas about who a leader is supposed to be.
Mm,
It wasn't just the established figures guiding people. Often it was just everyday individuals responding to what was right in front of them.
exactly. And that brings us right to the heart of our deep dive today, coactive leadership. It's a framework from the book Coactive Leadership: 5 Ways to Lead by Karen and Henry Kimsey-House. And the idea is forget the lone wolf at the top thing. This is much more about shared responsibility, recognizing that leadership isn't just one role, it's something we can all do just in different ways.
And if you think about how that connects to, maybe how people feel in their own jobs or community stuff,
Yeah,
it's about moving past that feeling of waiting for someone else to take charge.
right.
This model gives everyone a way in, a way to contribute their own leadership potential.
So, our mission today is basically to unpack these core ideas of coactive leadership for you. We want to show you how this model suggests that every single one of us, no matter the job title or position, can actually lead. It's about understanding and using these 5 different dimensions. Think of it as unlocking a more, I guess, dynamic and engaged way of operating for yourself and everyone around you.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do you even see your own potential to lead? Especially when you don't have that formal authority.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so let's dive into this term coactive. What does it actually mean?
Well, at its core, it's about being in action together.
Yeah.
Or you can maybe think of it as being together in action.
Okay.
It's this blend, this constant back and forth between the co-part, the relational receptive side of things,
Yeah.
how we connect, and the active part, the side that takes initiative, gets stuff done.
Right, the doing part.
Exactly.
Right.
And what's interesting is how our modern lives, they often pull us really hard towards just the active mode, right? Always pushing for outcomes.
Oh, definitely.
And you can see how that sometimes leads to that feeling of being on well, the book calls it a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Just constantly busy, but maybe missing those deeper connections, that sense of shared purpose.
The book really paints a picture of that feeling running flat out, trying to get ahead, but ending up, in the same place, feeling kind of isolated despite all the frantic activity.
Hmm.
It really highlights why grounding our actions in that sense of that connection is just so important.
And there's this lovely little story in the book about Karen smiling while she's just responding to emails.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds simple, right?
Yeah.
But it shows how even a task that seems solitary can have that relational element if you consciously connect with the people you're emailing.
That's a neat idea. So here's where it gets really interesting, I think. That little hyphen in coactive.
Right. It's not just punctuation.
No, it represents this really crucial shift in thinking, moving away from an either mindset to a both and. That ingrained idea that you can either be effective or you can be caring, or you have to choose, take a break or work hard.
Yeah, that binary thinking.
Exactly. But coactive is about both and.
And if you look at nature, you see this both and principle everywhere, don't you? Ecosystems thrive because things are interdependent. There's a balance of opposing forces creating stability.
That's true.
It really backs up this idea that things that seem contradictory can actually work together to create something, well, more whole.
Okay, so now let's tackle what might be a really game-changing idea for people listening. Everyone is a leader.
This is a big one.
And it's not just like a motivational slogan. The authors argue pretty convincingly that any thriving group, any truly dynamic organization, actually glows leadership at every level, not just in the C-suite.
And the key thing to get here is this idea of shared responsibility. Shared responsibility for the overall experience within the team or the community.
Right.
The book suggests there's a direct link between your own personal sense of empowerment, your fulfillment, and how much you actually take ownership for what's happening around you.
It really reframes leadership as a choice you make then, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It starts with just being willing to be accountable for your own world, your own sphere of influence, however big or small you think that is.
which leads us right into this fresh definition of leadership the book offers.
Mhm.
Leaders are simply those who take responsibility for their world, period.
Wow. Okay, so not about a title at all.
Nope. It's that
Yeah.
sense of ownership and the willingness to actually do something about it.
And they break down responsibility in a really insightful way. Two parts. First, being responsible, which means having the awareness to really see what's needed in a situation
Okay.
and the agility to respond creatively, not just fall back on old habits. That feels like the co-aspect, right? Being tuned in.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the active side of responsibility, then, is the conscious choice to be responsible, to see ourselves as active players in shaping our lives and the world around us.
Right. Life happens, things get thrown at you,
Always.
but our leadership comes out in how we choose to engage with all that.
Exactly. So leadership development, if you look at it through this lens, it becomes about intentionally growing the size of the world you feel responsible for.
Starting with yourself and moving outward.
Right. Your team, your community, the wider world. It's about shifting from feeling like things just happen to you to feeling like you're actively shaping things.
And the book also highlights this really critical principle in action, being fully present with people, that's the co, while at the same time holding them accountable for their actions, their commitments, that's the active.
So it's seeing their potential, but also empowering them to own their part.
Yeah. They share this powerful story about Karen and her colleagues working with men in prison.
Okay.
And despite, the seriousness of why these guys were there, they made a conscious choice to see them as capable of positive change, of wholeness,
Wow.
while still maintaining clear boundaries and accountability, of course. And the results they saw, the changes in those men, were apparently quite remarkable.
That really underscores the power of holding what seem like opposing ideas at the same time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seeing potential and demanding responsibility, and it challenges that idea.
Yeah.
You have to pick one or the other.
Okay, so all of this really sets the stage for the coactive leadership model itself. It has 5 distinct dimensions, or 5 different ways you can lead.
Right.
There's leader within, leader in front, leader behind, leader beside, and leader in the field. And visually, the model puts leader within right smack in the center.
And what's really crucial to understand is that these 5 dimensions, they aren't like rigid boxes you fit into. Instead, they're designed to work together, dynamically. People naturally shift between these roles depending on the situation, on what's needed right then.
That makes perfect sense, actually. In one situation, you might need to step up and take charge, be in front. But in another, maybe the most effective thing is to support from the background, be behind. The model gets that we all have natural strengths in certain areas,
Sure.
but it also stresses the value of practicing all of them.
Now, a concern some people might raise is, okay, if there's too much focus on on collaboration, doesn't that slow things down? Doesn't it hinder progress?
Right, the analysis paralysis worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the book addresses this directly. It clarifies that participation and agreement aren't the same thing.
Ah, okay. That's a key distinction.
Yeah. You can have a team where everyone feels heard, everyone contributes ideas, even if they don't all agree on every single detail. The critical thing is that when people feel a sense of ownership in the process, they're much more likely to commit to moving forward, even if the final decision wasn't their first choice.
So true collaboration isn't about getting total consensus all the time.
No, it's more about building that collective responsibility for the outcome, regardless of whether everyone got exactly what they wanted initially.
Got it. Okay, so let's start exploring these 5 dimensions then, starting with the foundational one, the coactive leader within.
Right, the one at the center. The core principle here is about leading from your inner knowing, guided by your values.
Okay.
And finding that balance between self-acceptance, that's the co-bit, being okay with who you are, and self-authority, the active part, taking ownership of your life and your choices.
It's interesting how often we're kind of conditioned to look outside ourselves for validation, isn't it?
Define ourselves by what others think.
Yeah. The book shares this charming but really telling story about a little niece planting marigold seeds. She carefully turned the picture on the seed packet inwards, believing the flowers needed to see the picture to know how to grow.
Oh, that's sweet, but yeah.
It's sweet, but as the authors point out, it just shows how early we learn to look outside ourselves for clues on who we should be, how we should act.
And in more traditional sort of top-down leadership structures, that inner voice, that self-authority can even be actively discouraged sometimes. Compliance is valued more.
Right, and so many of us fall into that trap of thinking our worth is mainly based on what we do, our achievements.
Totally.
Instead of who we fundamentally are. And this constant striving to prove ourselves, it doesn't leave much room for imperfection, does it? For just being human and making mistakes.
No, it doesn't. And the book makes a really crucial point. Ambition and hard work aren't bad things in themselves, obviously.
Of course not.
But when they're driven by this underlying lack of self-acceptance, this constant need to prove your worth to others, they're never going to lead to real, lasting fulfillment.
So self-acceptance, the co of leader within, is really about practicing being present with yourself, embracing who you are right now, warts and all.
Acknowledging that, yeah, your mind will wander, but the practice is just gently returning to that awareness of yourself.
And self-authority, the active side, is about consciously taking responsibility for your own life story, realizing you're the author.
Right.
The book contrasts two women who both lost their father to cancer. One felt completely overwhelmed, powerless. The other, despite her grief, actively engaged, sought support, even found moments of gratitude.
It really shows that while we can't always control what happens to us,
Yeah.
we always have control over how we respond and the meaning we make. That's where self-authority lies.
The authors use this great metaphor of cleaning out the basement, letting go of those old limiting beliefs we carry around, like, I don't know, heavy junk. They even talk about an exercise where people literally drag tin cans behind them.
Bro, to physically feel the weight of old beliefs.
Exactly, to get that visceral sense of how much energy we waste validating these limiting stories, sometimes even defending our own feelings of inadequacy.
Wow, that sounds intense but powerful.
But the payoff for letting go, for choosing self-authority, is huge. It's freedom. Realizing you have the power to shape your own life, write a story that actually nourishes you. And like the authors keep saying, leaders take responsibility for their world. And that inner work, self-acceptance and self-authority, it creates this wholeness that just radiates outwards.
Okay, let's shift gears now to the coactive leader in front. Now, for a lot of people, this is the image that pops into their head when they hear leader.
Right, the person at the helm, guiding the ship.
Exactly. But the coactive leader in front is about more than just telling people what to do.
Yeah, it's about really fostering genuine connection with the people you're leading. That's the vital co-element, building that trust and rapport, while also providing a clear sense of direction and purpose. That's the active bit, setting the vision, guiding the way, the real dynamic interplay.
And it's such a stark contrast to that more traditional kind of one-dimensional command and control style, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
That old style often creates distance. It's very transactional. Vulnerability, admitting mistakes, those aren't typically seen as strengths there.
But a coactive leader in front works differently. They inspire people to engage because people feel seen, heard, valued.
Right. They understand. They don't have all the answers. In fact, they actively want input from others to help shape and achieve that shared vision.
The book talks about this principle of weighing in to buy in.
Ah, yes.
Even if the final decision isn't exactly what you wanted, if you had a real chance to share your thoughts, even disagree respectfully, you're much more likely to feel invested in the outcome.
And trust the process, right? That leads to the importance of dynamic, generative conversation.
Not just small talk.
No, purposeful dialogue,
Right.
real substance, a chance for everyone to co-create ideas, discover new possibilities together. The root of the word conversation, from Latin, actually means to turn about with.
Oh, that's cool. It captures that back and forth engagement.
Exactly. The book shares this great example of a new retail division president. The division was underperforming.
Okay.
Instead of just dictating changes, she had this courageous conversation with her team, directly addressed their leadership, their engagement, created space for real honesty to uncover the root issues.
Wow, that takes guts. And transparency is another key piece for the leader in front, right?
Absolutely. The authors argue that in a world where real openness can be rare, genuine honesty and authenticity are incredibly powerful for building trust.
It's about communicating truthfully, speaking from integrity, even when it's tough admitting mistakes or facing difficult truths.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it's about creating psychological safety, an environment where people feel okay taking risks, innovating, even admitting failures without fear of blame.
Right. The book contrasts that real transparency with what it calls faux co.
Manipulative openness.
Yeah. Like you sometimes see in politics or media, where it looks open, but the intention isn't genuine.
Karen shares a really poignant personal story about her grandfather when he was dying.
Oh.
The lack of honest communication, even though it was meant to protect her, actually caused more fear and confusion. True transparency, the book says, isn't just the words, it's the authentic energy behind them.
That makes sense. Okay, so the active part of leader in front, taking a stand.
Yeah, taking a clear stand for a compelling purpose, a vision, even when things are uncertain or there's resistance, and doing it in a way that inspires others to come along.
Having that inner compass, like that Tolkien quote about Aragorn, not all those who wander are lost.
Exactly. It means being comfortable with some ambiguity, embracing the paradoxes that always pop up in leadership.
The authors define courage here as rage of the heart.
Yeah, I love that. Rooted in a deep passion, deep commitment.
It's that fierce dedication to the vision, but also having the wisdom to let go of tight control sometimes, empower others.
And that agility, that ability to smoothly shift from being leader in front to other dimensions when needed, that's a real hallmark of this model. There's a great example of Arnie, a nonprofit director. He saw a chance to empower his younger staff with the social media fundraiser.
So he stepped back.
Yeah, he stepped back from leading it himself and let them take the reins, effectively leading from behind in that moment.
It really shows how a coactive leader in front gets that their role isn't fixed. It's dynamic. It includes fostering leadership in others and knowing when the best thing is to step back.
Okay, let's turn now to the coactive leader behind. This one is often, I think, underestimated or maybe misunderstood.
Yeah, people might think behind means passive.
Right. But it's crucial to see it's not about being passive or giving up responsibility at all.
So stepping out of the spotlight as leader in front doesn't mean just sitting on the sidelines as leader behind.
Exactly. This is a really active role. It's about inclusive, dynamic followership, providing that essential support, those resources, but from out of the direct spotlight, that's the active part.
Okay.
And at the same time, working to strengthen the team's bonds, the community cohesion, that's the crucial co-element.
So leaders behind actually have a lot of influence.
Huge influence. They have the power to really help an initiative succeed, or if they're not engaged, to kind of undermine it without even meaning to.
Right. If people in those support roles aren't really owning it, it can drain the energy.
Totally. But effective coactive leaders behind, they understand their value. They take real pride in providing the support that lets others shine. And they get genuine satisfaction from contributing to the collective good, even if they don't get the public credit.
The book mentions that Derek Sivers' TED Talk, How to Start a Movement.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant illustration. It shows how absolutely critical those first followers are the leaders behind.
Right. They're the ones who turn one person's idea into something real.
Without their active, enthusiastic support, the leader in front's efforts would probably just fizzle out.
And these aren't just yes men, right?
Yeah.
Coactive leaders behind.
No, not at all. They follow consciously, deliberately. They're willing to respectfully challenge things, ask tough questions to make sure the leader in front stays on track with the vision and values.
They commit fully when they believe in what they're supporting.
Exactly. The co-aspect of leader behind is really rooted in generosity, a genuine gratitude for the chance to serve others. It's relational.
Not transactional, not what's in it for me.
Right. The focus is on contribution, on support. Henry shares this really touching story about welcoming participants back from a tough solo experience in an outdoor program.
Okay.
The thoughtfulness he showed in anticipating their needs, like warm water for tired feet, fresh fruit after fasting, it just perfectly captures that relational, anticipatory service.
That proactive anticipating of needs, that's a sign of great service, isn't it?
It really is. Like a restaurant remembering your dietary needs, or a hotel doing something personal after you've had a long trip, it makes you feel truly seen.
And a big part of being leader behind is developing that ability to find the rightness in situations and in people. Shifting perspective.
Yeah, intentionally looking away from what seems wrong or unworkable and exploring what is possible. It can totally change the reality you help create.
The book also brings in that concept of impeccability from the Four Agreements.
Ah, right. Speaking with integrity.
Yeah, avoiding gossip, using words for truth and love. That kind of clean, conscious communication builds wholeness, deeper intimacy in teams and relationships.
So the active side of leader behind is about actively believing in others, coaching them.
Yes. And that includes genuine acknowledgement, which is more than just praising what someone did. It's affirming their character, their inner strengths.
That kind of heartfelt acknowledgement must be really powerful for someone's confidence.
Oh, incredibly. There's an example of team members specifically acknowledging someone named Michelle for her pioneering work on a project. That recognition apparently had a huge positive ripple effect.
And then there's championing, right?
Yeah.
actively, publicly saying, I believe in you, you can do this. The story of Martha encouraging Karen to run a half marathon, even when Karen doubted herself.
Yeah.
It just shows the power of that unwavering belief from a leader behind.
Coactive leaders behind also practice deep listening, right? Going beyond just the words.
Exactly. Trying to really understand the emotions, the intentions underneath, and pairing that with asking powerful, open-ended questions that help people discover things for themselves.
Like that story of George just genuinely listening to his daughter talk about her cat, validating her feelings.
Yeah, a simple but perfect example.
And that hyphen in coactive leader behind it reminds us you can be deeply responsible, make huge contributions without being the one in charge.
Exactly. Leadership is about your actions, your commitment, not just your formal title.
Okay, now let's step into the coactive leader beside dimension. This sounds like partnership.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's deeper than just, say, dividing up tasks and working side by side. It's about forging a true partnership, where both people feel 100% responsible for every aspect of what they're doing together.
Wow, 100% each, not 50-50.
Right. It's about intentionally using each other's strengths and perspectives to create synergy. That's the active part, where the result is way more than just adding the two parts together.
Okay.
And the synergy happens around a shared vision that's the unifying co.
Oh.
The book uses this beautiful metaphor of a masterful dance,
Ah.
where the connection and shared intention are so strong, you can't even tell who's leading and who's following.
That's a great image. And this kind of partnership, it makes it possible to take bigger risks, right? Aim higher.
Definitely. Because, you have this trusted, equally committed partner who's got your back. The book reminds us of being kids, how much braver you felt just having a close friend beside you.
Totally true. Coactive leaders beside also hold each other accountable. Yeah.
Mutually accountable. And they move past that idea that there's only one right way to do things. The book mentions how the Coaches Training Institute found that when co-leaders teach together, the students actually learn more deeply. They discover their own unique ways, leading to what they call cellular learning. Cellular learning. Interesting. And these kinds of really collaborative partnerships, they become powerful models for authentic relationships. They create a deep sense of belonging and shared purpose.
So the co-part here involves intentionally designing the alliance, talking things through up front.
Exactly. Explicitly discussing roles, responsibilities, expectations. There's this fascinating example of executives doing designed alliance homework with their children.
With their kids, really?
Yeah, and it led to apparently amazing conversations and stronger partnerships, like one executive and her son creating a contract about his schoolwork.
Wow. And approaching each moment in the partnership with deep curiosity and openness is key too, right?
Absolutely crucial. The book uses another vivid metaphor. Two people walking on high wires, leaning into each other for balance.
Okay.
Any assumptions, any lapse in being present can create wobbles and risk the whole thing.
Makes sense. So the active component involves embracing disagreement, not avoiding conflict.
Yes, seeing it as a catalyst for greater synergy. Committing to what the book calls 100% commitment to the conflict, meaning fully engaging with the different perspectives instead of shying away. There's a cautionary tale about Martin subtly undermining his coworker because they hadn't dealt with their conflict directly. It just sabotaged the partnership.
Right. So avoiding it makes things worse.
Often, yeah. True synergy frequently comes out of that creative friction. Passionate discussion, deep listening, that's where new possibilities emerge that neither person saw alone.
Like the yes and idea from improv theater.
Exactly. Building on each other's ideas, not shutting them down.
And when there's that foundation of respect, disagreement actually makes the relationship stronger.
It really can. That hyphen and coactive leader beside truly represents two strong individuals becoming this single, unified leadership force, moving totally in sync.
Okay, last one. Let's delve into the coactive leader in the field. This is a bit more abstract.
It moves beyond just our immediate interactions, yeah.
Yeah.
It connects us to this broader sort of energetic field that surrounds life, offering information and insights.
Okay. Like an intuition thing?
Partly, yeah.
Yeah.
The book shares Eric's experience at the airport, feeling this palpable sense of collective reverence when caskets were being unloaded from a plane.
Ah. Oh.
Shows how we can sense and connect with a larger emotional or energetic landscape, often without words.
So coactive leadership in the field is about expanding your awareness beyond just individuals.
Right. Tapping into that field of imagination, intuition, maybe even instinct that's the receptive.
And then acting on that.
Leading to actions and decisions informed by that deeper wisdom that's the intuitive active, often without needing that hard, concrete proof first.
This definitely pushes back against a purely pragmatic, evidence-only view of leadership.
It does. The book quotes The Little Prince. What is essential is invisible to the eye.
Hmm.
Coactive leaders in the field feel a responsibility for their broader impact, even global impact. They look for actions that serve life itself.
Like Wayne Gretzky skating to where the puck will be.
Exactly. Or how Steve Jobs used early prototypes not just for feedback, but to sort of sense what customers needed before they could even articulate it, acting on that deeper understanding of the field.
So the co-aspect here involves letting go of needing immediate answers, slowing down.
Yeah, consciously slowing down to let your intuition surface. The book distinguishes intuition knowing without reasoning from instinct, that more primal drive.
And we can lose touch with those, can't we, in our busy lives?
Easily. The book uses the image of a trapeze artist letting go of one bar to grab the next, trusting their timing and instinct,
Powerful analogy.
and suggests practical things too, like taking an imaginary mini helicopter ride, just to get a broader perspective on things.
Being really aware of your own impact is also part of this, right? Even the subtle stuff.
Crucial. The book gives examples like a teacher whose bored voice drains the classroom energy, or someone loud on their phone in public, totally oblivious to the effect on the field around them.
Yeah, we've all experienced that. So the active part is taking action based on intuition, even without proof.
Right. It often takes a leap of faith, a willingness to experiment, maybe even fail sometimes.
Staying patient, creative, not getting stuck on the immediate problem. Like that story from Stephen Covey about clearing a path in the wrong jungle.
Exactly. Stop hacking, climb a tree, see the bigger picture. Is this even the right jungle?
Coactive leaders in the field contribute from passion and humility then, seeing themselves as part of something bigger.
Precisely. That hyphen here really represents that deep interconnectedness, embracing the mystery, the unfolding nature of life.
Okay, so as we think about all 5 dimensions interacting, it's important to remember people will feel more comfortable with some than others, right?
Absolutely. And that self-awareness is actually really useful for your own leadership development.
Yeah.
Where are you strong? Where could you maybe stretch a bit?
Because coactive leadership isn't about being stuck in one role. It's a way of being, acting. It lets you move fluidly between dimensions as needed.
hmm And it fights that feeling of isolation by showing you all these different resources and ways to lead you have available.
The book gives some great real-world examples of the model in action, like a simple classroom decision about a pet,
Yeah.
to a whole company culture shifting to embrace all 5 dimensions. Even personal stories like siblings using the model to reconnect.
Those examples like Melanie's team with the payroll system or Zach, the new CEO, deliberately shifting his style in a speech, they really show how practical and powerful this can be.
So the main message seems to be experiment. Try it out in your own life. Have that yes attitude towards trying new ways of leading.
Definitely. It might feel a bit awkward at first,
Mhm.
maybe stepping into a dimension you don't usually use,
Yeah.
but that's often where the best learning happens.
So wrapping things up, coactive leadership offers this really rich, multifaceted way to think about leadership and empowers everyone to step up by taking responsibility and using these 5 dimensions.
Yeah, it's a powerful framework.
We really hope this deep dive has given you some clarity, maybe some of those aha moments that shift how you see things.
Hmm.
Just understanding these 5 dimensions can give you a totally new lens for looking at leadership in your own life, at work, and everywhere else.
And maybe that leads us to a final thought for everyone listening to chew on.
Okay.
Which of these 5 dimensions resonates most strongly with you right now in this phase of your life?
Mm-hmm.
And then what might happen? What possibilities could open up if you consciously decided to explore and practice one of the other dimensions this week?
Ooh, interesting challenge.
Yeah, just reflect on your own built-in capacity to be a co-active leader. Consider how intentionally shifting your approach, maybe trying on a different dimension, might unlock new connections, new impact, maybe even more fulfillment in your world.